My journey as a leader has been a long one, but I feel like I've been a leader in some capacity for the majority of my life. My position in my family is first. I was the firstborn child. I was a leader within my own family to begin my life. I have a 2 year old years younger than I am sister, and a brother who is 7 years younger than I am. So at least 2 years into my life, I became a bit of a leader within my sibling unit. And then as I grew older, I assumed various leadership functions within school as student council, captain on the football team, basketball, track, athletic leadership positions. I've held several leadership positions in several organizations throughout my life. But this program has really helped me to kind of get more of a sense of the meat behind effective leadership. It's helped me to understand more of the concepts that drive what we do as leaders from a theoretical perspective, from a execution perspective, and then both in the academic sense of what leadership is, as well as the application sense of what leadership is. In my career, I worked for Enterprise Rent-A-Car for 6 years. I was in a management training program. So in that role, I was groomed for leadership from the very beginning. And then when I assumed an assistant manager position there, and then later a branch manager position, I utilized a lot of the same concepts and theories that we studied in this course, although I didn't know their names or know them by name, and now I do. As far as specific courses throughout this program, I have learned specific things in each one. I'll highlight a little bit under those headings right now. In the organizational issues and organizational leadership section, I learned the importance of conflict management, as far as handling conflict when it arises, effectively handling it, and then the characteristics of leaders who handle it effectively, as I've seen in multiple instances throughout my career, as well as, unfortunately, those who don't handle it as effectively. And I've noticed certain characteristics, as far as that goes, that are applicable to both sides. I believe, as I'll talk more throughout this video, I believe communication is paramount in anything, in leadership, in organizational management, and it gets highlighted when you have poor communication, when there's conflict. I believe that is the spotlight, so to speak, in an organization that has poor communication. As an example, my recent experience within my church, actually, I was a member of the children's ministry there, and the inability of the leadership at the church to communicate actually caused me to change churches. There was a change that they wanted to implement that they didn't implement effectively, which brings us to the leading change category. There are a number of different fatal errors that were made during the attempt at changing the position that I held. There was no communication, as I will constantly highlight. Communication is so important in leadership and just in general in any kind of relationship, because to me a leadership is a form of a relationship, and communication is absolutely critical in any relationship. As far as the change management, there was no change management plan in the example of my church change, and there was no communication of the plan. The plan wasn't decided prior to the decision to make the change, and then the implementation obviously fell apart. And I don't say that to drag my church through the mud. They're a young church, and the pastor there recently took over, so he's a new pastor, and he's got a lot to learn. I do it to highlight the things that I've learned throughout this course. Leadership theory is another area that I acquired quite a bit of academic knowledge of the different theories that go into who would be a successful leader. I believe traits and characteristics are important. I believe behavior is important, and then of course situational leadership is equally as important as all three. There are, of course, theories that believe, traits and characteristics. A leader is going to be somebody who is charismatic and who, has whatever traits are on the list of leadership specific traits. And I think there is merit to that. I think being an effective communicator is a trait that some people are born with. Some people can just naturally communicate effectively. Some people are outgoing. Some people are comfortable in a crowd. I think those traits are important to leadership, but I think if they're in a silo, they by themselves won't predict effective leadership. I've met several people who are charismatic and who are good speakers and who are, the pastor I was referring to is charismatic. He is a good speaker. He does have a lot of leadership traits, but the execution portion, which is the behavior part, is lacking. He does not communicate effectively. He does not yet. He can, and the good thing about behavior is that that's something that you can develop, that you can change, that you can mold, that you can learn and adapt and grow. And I think that is another incredibly important feature of a leader, is that they have adaptability. They can change those behaviors when the behavior that they're exhibiting doesn't see the right results. Now, situational theory is another component to those three, which we discussed not only in leadership theory but also in the Capstone course. Really, the Capstone 1 and this one, but particularly the Capstone 1, I felt were a great place to synthesize, to collaborate, or to collect all of the different elements that we learned throughout this course, specifically on leadership, and put them all together in one package. I believe with the 4 units, the fourth one being the paper, which the big paper, which had elements of everything that we've learned thus far: data-driven decision making, behavioral ethics and leadership theory, leading change. All of these were included in the Capstone course. Data-driven decision making is another thing that I have had a lot of experience with. At Enterprise, we used metrics for everything: KPIs, your profit and loss sheet. Everything was driven by data. Lost it. Everything was driven by data, and so the data-driven decision-making course rang particularly familiar to me, in that the experience that I have in leadership utilized a lot of those things, KPIs. My current job does also with L3, but not to the extent that Enterprise did. Behavior ethics and leadership was another class I enjoyed particularly. I enjoyed the case studies with the Ford Pinto and the Nissan issues. The Ford Pinto was particularly interesting to me in the sense that the manner in which Ford handled the issue with the exploding gas tanks and the fire, and the whole concept of the way that Ford put a dollar figure on human life, and then the way that they had to kind of backpedal out of that. Overall, throughout this course, throughout this program and the courses within this program, I really feel like I've taken what I would consider partially developed leadership style and a somewhat raw image of what leadership is, and I feel like I've cleaned it up. I feel like this course has given me polish to my leadership style. Today, I don't lead specifically in my position within my career. I do, however, as I mentioned, lead within a church setting. That is more, I lead kids in that setting. I also am a football commissioner in a youth sports organization, and I use a lot of the specific elements of this course in that situation. I have 9 teams that I am responsible for, and I lead those coaches of those 9 teams, as well as I coach one of my own, and then I'm responsible for all of everything that our organization does, from jersey sales to day-to-day operations to practice schedules to game schedules to the actual execution of a game day, especially the home games. And there's a lot of elements from this behavior, ethics, and leadership. There's a lot of ethical situations that I get confronted with, whether it be this year I've had to remove a coach from a team because of issues with language and their behavior, and just them not being a positive role model to the kids that we had under us. We've had to implement several changes during my tenure there. I've used a lot of the change management, both the litmus test of organizational readiness to the actual implementation. I've used the data to see where uniform costs were last year compared to what they are this year, and financial component. There's a large financial component to operating this league, whether it be the costs of running a game day, to running practices, to uniform costs, to any number of different other financial components, electricity and whatnot, that go into running this organization. So I use data for that. I mentioned the conflicts. They are daily, it seems, especially lately. But whether it's dealing with parents or dealing with coaches or dealing with things that arise just naturally in the setting of an organization. From here, I feel like I have the tools to put it all together. This degree will actually help me ascend into a leadership position within my company as well. So this is twofold. I get the knowledge and the experience to better myself as a leader, both in and outside of my career. And then, of course, the degree itself will help me have the documentation that I need to actually get into those positions. So overall, I feel like this course has really helped me as an individual. It's helped me to analyze organizations from a different perspective, through a different lens, analyze leadership styles within those organizations through a different lens, and then overall it's helped me to really package together more of a image of what I want to see in my own leadership style as I ascend to a leadership position within my organization. And then, as I said, I've already directly applied a lot of the information from this course to my own leadership style in the current leadership roles that I have. So overall, I'm pleased with the course or the program. I'm excited about where my leadership journey will take me in the future. I'm excited for the polish that this program has brought to my leadership style, and I look forward to putting all of these things into practice in the real world. Thank you.